What's up, everybody? Welcome on into our episode number 4 of the MLB. We are looking here at the AL West. If you missed any of our first 3 shows, all of our National League shows are done. They are on Spotify as well as on our YouTube channel at The Sports Forum. Also doing a cash giveaway if you're one of our subscribers. So go ahead and click that subscribe button. We appreciate you guys. Myself, Rick Stamburo, here with Bryson Owens and Anthony Hirsch. Gentlemen, one of the best divisions in all of baseball. This should be a very fun time. Texas Rangers, obviously World Series champions, Houston Astros, Seattle Mariners, Los Angeles Angels from Anaheim, as Anthony would say, and the Oakland Athletics, who will soon be the Las Vegas Athletics. Let's look here, man, at the Texas Rangers. I want to start with these guys right out the gate because you just look at what they did last year. It was a phenomenal season overall. They get it done in the final against the Arizona Diamondbacks, which, you know, you can go ahead and say whatever you want about that. But the Diamondbacks at that time were a problem for everybody to try to get through. So looking at the Texas Rangers, Anthony, starting with you, man, I guess last year they were the best team in baseball. Off the rip, are they the best team in baseball again?
I do not believe so, but I do think they'll get back to that point. You give it like halfway through the season, and I think this Rangers team will kind of be up to par with what we got used to them being last season. They just have so many freaking injuries right now here, Riggs. Just going to read off a couple names here right for you. Corey Seager, he's going to be on he's going to be on the IL to start the season. He has a pretty bad sports hernia. As you know, with those kind of injuries, that's a really tough one to kind of draw up a timetable for his return. But obviously, they're going to be keeping it safe right there. And you take a look at 2 of the best starting pitchers in all of baseball, Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer. They will also be shelved to start the season. So many big names are hurt coming into this year. I get that last year, a lot of the reason why they were so good is they were able to deal with adversity probably better than any team in Major League Baseball, because DeGrom has been hurt basically his entire freaking career. If he's not dominating on the mound, he's going to be on the IL. He's going to be missing time. It's something when they got out, they went out and, got a guy like DeGrom. They understood that. I do think that they have some promising names. Nathan Eovaldi topping that rotation. He's had this kind of late career resurgence, one of the most electric fastballs you're going to see from a starting pitcher across the league right there. But I still feel with a lot of these names hurt to start off the year, it might be a struggle with some of this, just outstanding talent that's on top of this division. I'm a little bit scared about how they're going to fare until they get some of these big names back. But overall, if you say where they're going to be at the end of the season, you better believe they're going to be back there in the big dance. But it might be a little tough sledding until they get some of these names back.
Guys, if you have not already checked out sportsforumdenver.com, I have the article up there for the AL West. Everybody here writes these articles. Bryson just got his NL Central up. Anthony Hirsch handling the East articles, and so on. So you guys will have all 6 articles up on our website, sportsforumdenver.com. But Anthony, every single thing you're saying, man, I agree with you. Bryson, I want to jump over, man, and take a deep, deep look at the pitching department. Anthony mentioned Scherzer. Obviously, him being hurt is just a brutal thing to have to deal with, but he should be back. He should play, and he should be okay. Nathan Eovaldi as the number 1 guy. I said in the article that my favorite guy on this pitching staff is actually the ex-Rocky, shout out to the Purple, being John Gray. I like John Gray, his projections for the year, 9-9 overall, 4.38 ERA. I actually see him closer to a 3.95, a 3.92 type of ERA. I think he's going to be somewhere in the realm of 11-7 overall. I think he's going to be the top dog here on this staff. He's got a great switch up. He's got great speed. And most importantly, he's got the personality when he goes on the mound that it's that fuck you, I'm better than you. If you PGA terms, it's that Brooks Koepka cocky thing. And I really, really like that. Obviously, if you're a pitcher, you got to have thick skin. I think John Gray has that. So looking at the pitching staff here, I know obviously we haven't talked about any other teams yet, but is this the best pitching staff in this division? If it's not, don't tell me who it is, but is it the best?
As of right now, with a lot of what Anthony was saying, I'm going to say no. I think the starting rotation has the potential to be, especially once you get Scherzer back, once you get DeGrom, because then you move guys like Eovaldi and John Gray down in that rotation. And if you have John Gray as your 4th or 5th starter in a rotation, that's a really good rotation, because John Gray, when he was in Colorado, was asked to be the ace more often than not. He's He's not that guy. He's not the number one pitcher on a rotation. But if you have him as your fourth starter, that's pretty darn good. My biggest concern with this team is the bullpen. The bullpen was a disaster last season. They were 27th in saves last year with
Which
30.
is so weird.
They were
So
20th in holds. They did go out and get Kirby Yates to kind of help fill that gap, but that bullpen is just my biggest concern with that pitching staff there. I think once the starting rotation gets healthy, I think it has the potential to be one of the best in baseball. It's just not there quite yet.
Fair, man. I mean, I'm hearing you because I will say the amount of times that I took the Rangers first five something first five under 4.5, first five money line. You're right. With the Rangers, you wanted to stick to the first five, maybe even the first 3 innings, because if you look at all the guys, Eovaldi, Gray, Heaney, Dunning, all those guys can have major control through the first 3 to 5 innings. And then, like you said, weirdly though, I don't think the bullpen is as bad as the numbers said they were. And I know that that's kind of hard to argue, but the names in the bullpen, the arms, they were just off. And that sounds stupid. I don't have an explanation for it, but overall, Anthony, I see you kind of nodding your head agreeing there. How you feeling about this bullpen? Do you think that maybe Bryson mentioned 27th? Can they be a top 15, top 20?
Oh, absolutely they can. And I think one of the guys that did step up with some of these bigger name guys struggling in the pen last year was a guy like Brock Burke. And you look at his contributions over the past couple of years, ever since this guy has gone to the league, he has dominated. Shout out to him. He went to Evergreen High School. I've got to know Brock very well. I mean, you knew at that time that his crap was nasty, but then you take that to not through college, not only through minors, but to major leagues, and you're able to dominate at that level. I know he's had some injuries, he's been getting back from, but I think he's another guy. Once you pencil him in there with another year of experience under his belt, this Rangers organization as a whole are looking to him to be more of an influential piece in this bullpen, where instead of being that mop-up guy where you bring him in if the pitcher, the starting pitcher sucks ass, he needs a guy that eats up innings. He's now going to be used situationally where he can be, a setup guy, the 7th inning, 8th inning man, going into the closer. I know maybe one day he could be looked at as that closer, probably not right now, but I think that his contributions get a little overshadowed just because there's a lot of bigger names that have struggled. But to Bryson's point, I think bringing in a guy like Kirby Yates, his crap is nasty. Also he's more accustomed to pitching against National League hitters. I think that American League hitters, at least in the first couple of months, having to face him, could struggle a lot against him. Funky motion, ball comes out of his hand kind of weirdly. He's able to hide the ball really well in his delivery. Overall, I think their bullpen will be okay. They do need to make some improvements there 100%. But I also feel like once they get some of these starters back, you can afford to move one of these 4 or 5 guys in your rotation back into the pen to be the premier guy of the bullpen, which is going to help them out a whole lot there. Offensively, just not too concerned about these guys. They, one of the top home run hitting teams in the league. They led all of Major League Baseball in runs per game. While there are some bigger guys out, you still have guys like Adolis Garcia, who dominated last year. He was the AL Championship Series MVP. I think he's going to dominate and really excel, even with some of these other guys down. He's one of those guys that can kind of put the offensive load on his back and carry through. Overall, I think this is going to be a really good team. If they're able to, see what they can do with the pitching staff to start the year until they get some of these big names back, these guys are going to be really good.
Bryson, I want to ask you something about the hitting lineup, though, because I mentioned in the article that I thought it was surprising to see the numbers of the team last year hitting, because they weren't real for them being like the best offense and all these great things and all. If you really dive deep, the numbers weren't that much better than any other team in baseball. So it kind of shocked me when I saw the outcome, but the projections for this year have them taking a step back, being even more average than they were last year. I mean, the number one projected guy on the team is Marcus Semien there with a .265. Yes, you got guys like Evan Carter, Wyatt Langford, Adolis Garcia. They're projecting Garcia 31 home runs, 94 RBIs. So sure, he'll lead the team in RBIs, and then a .243. I mean, is that going to be a good enough average for a star like that if they really want to go ahead and try to repeat what they did last year?
I think the average is just fine, hitting somewhere around 240 if you're going to produce 31 home runs and 90 plus RBIs. I think that's fine, especially for your 4-hole hitter. What this isn't including, like Anthony mentioned, Corey Seager is on the injury report. And he is, in my opinion, I don't know if you agree with me, Anthony, he's the best player in that lineup. He is
No, 100%.
He's a superstar, and I love Marcus Semien. I love Adolis Garcia, but without Corey Seager in that lineup, you're missing one of the best bats in baseball. So you're going to need him to actually compete fully as an offense. Once you throw him back in there, this lineup is dangerous top to bottom, in my opinion. But they're going to need to tread water. They're going to really rely on guys like Marcus Semien and Adolis Garcia early on in the season until Seager is good to go.
Over under for these guys this year. Very, very interesting number. I actually saw this number. I was kind of surprised by it. Over under 87.5. They are picked to win less games, obviously, than they did in 2023. Anthony, are you thinking 88 plus here should be easy money for the Texas Rangers?
I do think so. I think it's going to be one of those times where, like, halfway after the All-Star break, this team is going to really rack up wins when they're fully healthy at that time. First half, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be sweating this number if they're treading water the way we kind of think they are. I just feel like in the second half of the year, it's going to be very reminiscent of last season and the fact that they make this great playoff push. They get all their weapons back at the right time, and they build momentum into the playoffs. One of the big reasons why they're able to make that run, they had more momentum heading into October than any other team in Major League Baseball. I see that being a very similar season. I see them right around like 89, 90 wins, and most of those wins being stacked up after the All-Star break. It's going to be close. I'm going to be sweating this one out, especially in the second half, but I do see them going over that win total right there.
Are you with him, Bryson?
Yeah, I'm with him on the over there. I'm not as worried in the first half of the season like Anthony is. Obviously, it's going to be a concern because they are super injured, but they went through last season without a lot of these big names, and they went on that run. They won the World Series without a lot of their big names in the lineup, in the pitching staff, whatever it was. So I think that they're more than capable of competing early on in the season without their stars, and then once their stars come back, they go on a big run. So I like the over in this one. It is a big number, especially considering the amount of injuries, but I think this is going to be a 90-win team.
I went really, really back and forth on this one. I did mention in the article, I don't have them winning the division, but I do have them getting to 88 wins. And I know that's kind of tough to be like, well, how are they going to win if they break 88, aren't they going to probably win? You say that, but last year they tied for 90 with the Houston Astros. So this one does feel like you're going to need more than 90 wins to get it done. I don't think they have more than 90. I have them 88, 89. 90 is the ceiling to me, just with the Corey Seager stuff, a little bit of banged up Max Scherzer. Like Anthony mentioned, it's going to be sweaty at first. So you got to be really careful taking that over out the gate. But we're going to take a shot here. Squad ride with the over. Best of luck to everybody on that one. But let's jump on over here and look at team number 2. That is the Houston Astros. Last year, Houston tied first, like I mentioned, 90 wins overall with the Rangers. They then get obliterated by the Rangers in Game 7 to go to the World Series, 11-4. It was not their best showing. But, Anthony, I asked you earlier about the pitching department, and I believe that this is the best pitching department of all departments in this division overall. Your thoughts on that? Am I correct, or is it the Rangers?
No, they do have the best pitching department in this division, but I will say it has taken a step down over the past 2 seasons. I still feel like this pitching staff has just gotten a little bit worse. You look at this season, they're going to be without their ace, Justin Verlander. They're slating that he's supposed to come back not too far into the season, probably somewhere around like early May right there. But given his injury history, we know that while they may say early May, we all know it during the rehab process. He might get banged up again. Something gets, messed up with, he's getting hurt again. And that all of a sudden, he's not coming back until the All-Star break. It's a little concerning there for me, but you look at some of these other names, you have to give credit to their front office, to their scouts. They've been able to just go out and pick out some of the best pitchers in all of baseball from really no-name places, not big-name schools. There haven't been big names in their native countries. But you look, they're probably going to be going with Framber Valdez to lead this rotation. He 12-11 last year, 2.45 ERA. Overall, ERAs were so far down last year. To see a 2.45 ERA leading your rotation, they're going to be just fine without Verlander out. That's just one name of many between the starting rotation, between the bullpen. they've built this reputation of having the best pitching staff of all of baseball through and through. They're carrying it through. It's gotten a little bit worse, but still, it is absolutely elite. In my opinion, the best pitching staff in the division. I don't know. I'll turn this over to Bryson right here. Bryson, do you think these guys are elite? That's still the class of the division, or do you think they've taken a step back without Verlander?
No, I think that they're still the best pitching staff in the division. You mentioned Valdez, Anthony. You didn't mention my favorite pitcher in this rotation. Personally, I love Christian Javier. I think he's a stud. He's been over the last couple of years one of my favorite pitchers, especially in the first 5 innings of games. One of the best first 5 innings pitchers in all of baseball. He is a stud. A really, really good number 2. Once Verlander does come back, slides into that third hole. One of the best 3 pitchers in any lineup in the entire MLB. The big thing with the Astros, last year, you mentioned they took a step back, Anthony, in their pitching department. I thought most of that was their bullpen. They had just an average bullpen. When you thought about the Astros over the last few years, you think about the fact that they had the best bullpen in baseball over the last couple of seasons. Last year, it wasn't that. Well, what they did to fix that was they went and got the best closer in free agency this offseason by getting Josh Hader. So now their closer from last year moves to the 8th hole. He's the setup man. They now are projected to have one of the best 7th, 8th, and 9th inning rotation of pitchers in all of baseball with Josh Hader coming over. So I think they fixed their biggest weakness in the pitching department by getting another true reliable bullpen pitcher. So I think while their pitching staff isn't as dominant as it used to be during their World Series runs, it's still the best one in this division.
Christian Javier. So I actually mentioned in the article that I think Christian Javier is just the mini-me of Framber Valdez. I think he's almost there, but I do think that Framber's got just that little bit of extra juice on his ball that makes him a little bit better. But I agree. I think Christian Javier, he's got to be one of the best number 2s in all of baseball. I think I even mentioned in there, he could go to multiple other teams and be the number 1 guy today, and it's not even a question. So 100%. I'm with you there, man. This pitching staff, nasty. Then you got guys like Hunter Brown on there, young dude, very promising. I think he's going to be great. JP France, another name to watch out for when this guy starts. You might see a lot of people go, oh, it's the end of the rotation. I'm going to stay off of the Astros today. Do not sleep on this kid. JP France is a very good pitcher, and I expect big things out of him. But Anthony, you jump on over, man, and you take a look at the lineup, the best lineup in the division. I mean, come on. There's no one that's matching up with these guys. I see you there kind of giving me a little maybe not look there, but you got Altuve, Alvarez, Bregman, Tucker, Abreu, Diaz, McCormick, Pena, and Myers. Good luck. If you're pitching against these guys, good luck. Anthony, how you feeling about this order? Is it the best in the AL West?
I would agree with you if this was 2-3 years removed from right now. Here's the thing with the Astros. They keep running back the same squad, deservingly so. I mean, they've went on one of the most dominant runs over the past 2 decades in all of baseball. Really developed the one true dynasty. I don't really consider the Giants run of the 2010, 2012, 2014 run to be a legit dynasty because it's like they build up 1 year and then just sell off the next. This is the one true dynasty, since 2000. That being said, they keep running back these group of guys. It's finally gotten to the time where I just don't believe in this core group of guys. I think they're getting to a point where together, it's just not the recipe anymore. Jose Altuve, I know they just re-inked him to a 5-year, $125 million deal right there. Nice contract for him. You take a look at his regular season numbers, man. They continually drop off. The strikeouts keep growing and the average keeps decreasing. I'm not super sold on Altuve being the leadoff, hitter anymore for this lineup. I think they would be better off going with a guy like Jeremy Pena, but he also strikes out all the time. Strikeouts have been building and building over the past 2 seasons for these guys, and some of the other power numbers have been dipping a little bit. Jose Abreu, he's a great piece, great value power piece, but he strikes out a ton too. They don't have a whole lot of contact hitters, especially at the top of this lineup right here. And I think for the first time ever, there's a definite window closing here for the Astros. Bregman's on the last year of his deal. They're not going to be able to maintain this core group of guys. The one guy who's going to be there and is going to be one of the top hitters in all of baseball is Kyle Tucker. Can't deny that fact. This guy has grown to be a superstar in this league. Not super traditional, kind of funky, the no batting gloves, kind of funky lefty batting stance right there, but he is the premier of this offense. And outside of that, I see a bunch of guys taking steps back over these past couple of seasons. I need to see a lot of resurgence from a lot of the guys for me to be completely sold on this offense.
I got a name that I want to throw you really quickly because the one name you didn't mention, who I think could start for this lineup and do a great job, you did mention his name, but you didn't put it up there, was Alex Bregman. I know he's the number 3 right now. I kind of like him in the number 1. He gets on base, and I have to respect the dude that gets on base. He's a good single, good doubles guy, doesn't hit the most home runs. You don't need him to hit the most home runs there in the number 1 spot. So what's your take on that? I kind of like Bregman there in the first spot.
I think fundamentally Bregman is the best hitter on the Astros. He understands pitchers better than anyone else. He understands how to work at bats into his favor. He doesn't strike out a whole lot. He has one of the best eyes in all of Major League Baseball. Like, you look at his, how many balls he lets go that are actually ball percentage that he doesn't swing at, this bad ball miss percentage, as they call it. He's right up there with Juan Soto. I love that move, honestly. I think that they need to start looking a little bit outside of the box to see who to put up into that leadoff spot if they want to have more, productivity coming out of the 1 through 5 hitters at the top right there.
Bryson, looking at the win total, man, the highest in the division, 92.5. They got to win 3 more games than they did last year. You guys have kind of mentioned the fact that they haven't really done anything. They're the same baseball team. They're just a year older. I don't know if that's a good year older or a bad year older, but do you think it's worth 3 more games, Bryson?
I think so. I think this is the best team in the division, personally. I think a lot of that comes with the fact that they're healthy coming into this. I kind of disagree with what you said, Anthony, about them running the whole batting order back. And it's the same team over the last couple of years. They've actually brought in a lot of young guys. They've clearly shown they can develop their minor league hitters into being what the Astros want. You look at the that lineup we were talking about: Yanier Diaz, Jeremy Pena, Jake Myers. They're all young guys. They're all guys with less than 3 years of MLB experience who are clearly fitting into this rotation pretty well. I think that Bregman's one of the best third basemen in baseball. I like Yordan Alvarez. Jose Altuve still got it, in my opinion. And I mentioned, I think the one hole the Astros really had last year was in the bullpen, and they fixed it. So I think that they're worth a few more wins this season. So I would take a shot on the over for this team.
93 wins, Anthony. Is he on to something there, or is that just way too many here for you to get behind?
That's just too many for me. I see too many teams making significant progressions in the offseason within the division that are going to be so much more competitive than last year. I just can't see it. I don't love it right there. And to be fair, Jeremy Pena, yes, he does start, and yes, he had a fantastic rookie season. He dropped off a lot in his sophomore year. I mean, it's not the most atypical thing for a guy to go through a sophomore slump in Major League Baseball. You get through your rookie season, all of a sudden pitchers can figure you out over the course of a year. I do think he comes back, and I do think he has a much better season. But other than that, I still believe that it's the same group of guys, and I think they just got a little bit worse. I don't think the bullpen gets too much better. Like, yes, I know Hader's a great arm to have there at the back end, but if you can't get him the ball in the 9th inning, I think they're going to struggle. I think Presley's going to struggle in the 8th spot right there. You factor in everything. I'd like the under right here. I still think they make the playoffs as a wild card team, but I think it's finally the time that the Rangers kind of usurp them and win the title. Riggs, where do you see this one going? I know, the win total is interesting right there. A little high. Do you see them winning more than 92 games, or do you think it's a little bit of that fallback season there for the Astros?
Give me the over. I have to do it. I don't want to do it, bro, but the thing is like, I already said it. I'm not all in on the Rangers. I don't think that they're all that in a bag of chips. They are a good baseball team. They are solid from top to bottom. Bryson mentioned the bullpen issues. I think they're going to get better. I think they're going to be around the 20th bullpen, but they're not a top 10 bullpen in baseball. The pitching staff could be top 5 tomorrow if it was healthy, but it's not. Someone has to win 90 plus. I already said it, and I think it has to be the Astros in this division. Not only do I think they're going to win 93 games, I think they're going to win 94 games, and I think they're going to win the division flat out here. And really, I think they're going to beat the Rangers by a solid minimum of 3 games here. I just don't think this is the Rangers division to take. So going to be fun, going to be interesting, but we got to move on down here, guys, to the biggest wild card, in my opinion, at least. I mentioned in the article, I think they're a wild card team, That is the Seattle Mariners last year. They finished third overall, 88-74 in the division. Very young team, very promising team. They got star Julio Rodriguez. Everybody kind of gets behind him. My problem is, I think in the hitting department, he's one of their own only real big dogs. They have a lot of guys that get on base that are smart hitters, but they kind of struggle there. I like the pitching department. Outside of the big two guys, though, Luis Castillo and Logan Gilbert, I don't know if they're that team. Anthony, look at 88-74 last year. First of all, was that a good year for them? And can they at least repeat, if not take steps forward this year?
They missed on the playoffs by one game. I mean, getting to 88 wins and missing out on a wild card spot is really tough.
Brutal.
I don't see that happening again. I think if they beat that same win total, they're probably going to get into the playoffs. I just don't see the AL as a whole being as good as last season, but who knows? I mean, I think you get to a point where the Mariners are very much saying, getting into the year, we need to get to 90 wins to guarantee ourselves a spot in the postseason. But you talk about the hitting right there. I think that was the biggest weak spot for them, the weakest link, and the reason why they weren't there last season. What do they do over the offseason? They go out, they get Mitch Garver, they get Mitch Haniger, and they get Jorge Polanco. Luke Riley should be a big bolster to the offense right there. Mitch Haniger, a former Mariner, he loved playing there, really did excel when he was over there. I think all of those guys are going to contribute to the batting order. They might be some older guys, but they are experienced hitters that do perform very well. I'm really excited to see what Polanco could do for this team. And then you also look at another younger guy who really excelled last year, J.P. Crawford. This is one of the fastest players in the league, a great top of the lineup guy who also has a little bit of pop. I think with all of these factors coming in the front office, like we're talking about, for some of these other teams, especially in like the NL Central, they assess what was wrong with the roster and why they weren't at the top of the division. They go on the offseason and they make the moves that they need to in order to, in their minds, contend with the Rangers, contend with the Astros. And I think they will. I really do think they will. I absolutely love this roster right here. You talked about Rodriguez. I think he's one of the most talented younger guys. Like every time I watch that dude play, especially in that Mariners uniform, I just get hit with nostalgia. Like Ken Griffey Jr. Like he just screams Ken Griffey to me. Wow. Overall, I love the rotation. I love the lineup. I think this is a team that could surprise a lot of people this year. Mm-hmm. Bryson, I know you're not as high on the Mariners, like flat out. You're just not as high on them. What are some why don't you see them going as far maybe?
So I love the pitching staff. I think this pitching staff's fantastic. Last season they finished third in the MLB in total ERA with a 3.74. I think that's a really good strength for this team. I'm not sold on this lineup at all. Nope. Just point blank. I'm not sold on the guys that you mentioned they brought over. Mitch Haniger, yeah, he used to be really good. In 2021, 39 home runs, 100 RBIs, 253 batting average. His home runs, RBIs, batting averages have all gone down since then. His games played have gone down since then. He only played in 61 games last year and hit 6 home runs. I'm not sure how much of an increase he's going to be to that lineup. Jorge Polanco, he had a down year again. His home runs and RBIs went down. His batting average is just okay. It's 255. It was 255 last year. I'm not sold on it. Outside of Julio Rodriguez and maybe Mitch Garver, who had a solid season last year, there's not really anyone in this lineup I'm overly afraid of. Even you mentioned J.P. Crawford. Dude's a really solid leadoff hitter. 2 stolen bases last year. He had a career year in terms of home runs and RBIs. But I'm not sweating anyone in the Seattle lineup, in my opinion. They were below league average last year in terms of batting average. They were below league average last year in terms of home runs. If they can win games every game 3-1, sure, I would take the Seattle Mariners to have a really solid season. I would be more afraid of them. But at some point, this offense has to produce. And I'm not overly afraid of anyone here. The pitching staff is great. Love the pitching staff. But in terms of batting lineup and batting order in this division, clearly, at best, they have the third best, in my opinion.
Well, and the thing that's tough here is, and I agree with you, and I mean, Anthony, you mentioned it, like to win 88 games and not make it. I mean, it's just, that's a tough pill to swallow there. And the thing is you still have to find a way to get through the Rangers or the Astros. You got to get through one of them. And the problem is, it's kind of like kind of like my Pittsburgh Steelers. I hate to bring up my Pittsburgh Steelers, but it's the same. Like when you're up against teams that you could go to any other division and probably be the big dog, but you're not the big dog here. That's where they are. We were just talking our last show. We did the NL Central. The Mariners could go over there and probably be the best team in the whole division. But here they're going to be the third one. So I'm just having trouble looking at the lineup. Are they as good? I don't think so. Yes, Luis Castillo and Logan Gilbert, both phenomenal pitchers. Bryson, you mentioned that you really like the staff. I think George Kirby is good. With that said, he's very hot and cold. I'm not sold on Bryce Miller. I do like me some Brian Wu. I think that dude's got some promising, some promising future, in his road coming up. But outside of that, I mean, they're not the best hitting staff. They're not the best pitching staff. Their bullpen is solid, but I don't think they can repeat and be a top 3, top 5 again. I think they're more in the 8 to 10 range. So I don't know, man, which brings me to the over-under, 87.5. Same thing as the Texas Rangers. Well, if you got to go team for team, I guess I have to take the Texas Rangers over the Mariners. So I'm going to say under 87.5 for me here. Anthony, are you on the under, or is this a spot where you're going to go over here once again?
I might go over by that half game. Like, I see this being a team that gets to the 88, 89 wins, like this very similar team to last year. I think they stack up pretty similar. I think they actually have a little bit more success against like an Astros team this year. But I do, with that being said, lean the over like half a game there. I think that win total is enough to get them into the postseason. And for this Seattle team, this is what they're built to do. They're built to try to go out and get a wild card spot. They understand you're not going to compete against the Rangers, against the Astros. They're just not built that way. But they can contend for a wild card spot. And as we've seen with this new playoff format, that's all it takes. You just need that wild card spot. So I'm going to hesitantly take them on the over. I think they get to the 88, 89 win mark right there. Do you see them around that area there, Bryson, or do you think they take a step back this year after that 88 win season last year?
1 second. I got to say one thing that Bryson said, and it just reminded me of what you just said. They're going to compete with teams like the Astros. The problem is, Bryson mentioned it, they're going to win a lot of baseball games 3-1, 2-0. They're going to win a lot of baseball games like that. The problem is you're not going to beat the Astros with 3 runs.
Yep.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, this Astros, you might look at all the names on this Astros offense. They're taking a step back this year. I hate to tell you, you can't tell me that aging ball players who are getting to their 35-year mark are still going to go out and perform the way they have. Sorry, you can't tell me.
The Seattle Mariners have the same things going on. They've got a bunch of 30-year-olds who have dropped off a little bit in this lineup.
Yeah, but not their starting rotation. I'm telling you, their rotation can go head-to-head against the Astros lineup where they can let up 1 run every single time. More so than last season where they're going to get more wins.
Okay, healthy batting order on both sides. Framber Valdez up against Luis Castillo, ace versus ace. You're really going to tell me more than 50% of the time you're going to take the Mariners to win that game?
This season, yes, I would. Head-to-head, I would take the Mariners over the Astros more than 50% of games.
Folks, go write this one down. Save this, bookmark it, do whatever you got to do. Anthony, this one's going to come back to bite you, my brother, because the Houston Astros are going to win, in my opinion, every single series against the Mariners this year.
You think they win every single series against the Mariners?
Every single series. Are they going to sweep them? No.
I don't know why you give the Astros so much freaking credit. Like, you're the one who's saying they didn't go out and do anything this offseason. The Mariners did go out. They did a lot in the offseason. This Astro team just keeps getting older. They don't do anything. Like, I just don't see how you can give all of those factors. The fact that Dusty Baker's out of there, they're coming with a new manager where the Mariners have been building and building for years now. I don't agree with that at all.
I get it.
I think I give the Astros all that credit because they're consistently one of the best teams in baseball, and this lineup consistently in the top 10 in terms of things like RBIs, home runs, batting average. Like, even if they take a drop off a little bit, you need this Mariners lineup, which was below league average last year, to take a huge step to even be in the same conversation.
Which was a huge down year for them as well. If you look at their numbers comparatively to 2021, big drop off for them. I do believe they bounce back, and I think the Astros' time of reigning has to end at some point. I think it's going to be this year.
Look, man, winners win. I already said this today. Winners win. The Houston Astros are winners, Anthony. I don't like them. I am not. I will root for the Mariners every time before I'll root for the Astros. The problem is when you look at batting order versus batting order, you can go ahead and say whatever the hell you want. You are not taking the Mariners batting order over the Astros. And Framber Valdez versus Luis Castillo, there's no way I'm taking Luis Castillo in that matchup. I just can't do it. That's my problem. And
Luis
when you go
Castillo's
down
a better
the
pitcher
order,
than Framber Valdez. I will say that straight up right now.
Okay, folks, we
If
got to
you
move
put him
on.
head to head, he's a better pitcher. He has better stuff. He's a better lefty.
He is not a better pitcher than Framber. No, there's
Yeah.
who is a more dominant shutdown pitcher. It's Valdez every time for me. I don't know.
I just don't
Bryson,
see it.
you got anything else here?
It's Luis Castillo.
No,
it's Luis Castillo. He has better movement. He has better stuff. He has better control, better command.
He also
I get
gets
because
hit
Framber
yard
Valdez was on
a
the
hell of a
top
lot
of a
more.
really good team. It's easy to go with him. Luis Castillo is a better pitcher. Like I hate to in every aspect. I think he's a better pitcher.
Which one of them is more likely to throw a no-no?
Luis Castillo, as he came very
my
close
God.
a couple of times last year.
Okay. Yeah.
Who goes deeper into games, Riggs? Who goes deeper into games?
What?
Valdez
Valdez
last 5
was-
innings if he's lucky.
I don't know. Valdez goes deep into games too.
I can't tell you the amount of times
Valdez
last season where I saw
shuts people
Valdez get his pitch count up and he needed to get taken out, even if he was pitching a good game, because he can't get guys out in these 2-strike counts. He'd rather go for the strikeout and elongate counts out where he gets into 2-2 counts, 3-2 counts, where Luis Castillo is not as concerned about that and be more willing to get ground ball outs, pitching to contact, which keeps his pitch count lower, more routinely, more consistently in games than Valdez.
Just to make this fun, if the Mariners win every series against the Astros this year, I will get a Seattle Mariners tattoo just for you. But guess what? It ain't happening. They're not better than the Astros. They're just not. So anyway, folks, we got to get moving here. But so Anthony is going with the over. Bryson is going with the under.
Yeah.
Let's see what I said. I said it's going to be uncomfortably close. But I do think, unfortunately, I said they have a point to prove. Like Anthony mentioned, they're on the up and up. So I did put them over on my article, even though in this exact moment, I'm regretting doing that. But I have to stand by what I said when my mind was in the right space. So I'm going to go with the over. I'm sick. I don't know how the hell I put that on there, but we are going with the over here. Once again, it's not that I think they're bad. It's that I just think the Astros are better. That's it. That's all I'm going to leave that at. But we got to get moving here, guys, to the next team. That team straight out of Anaheim, California, the Los Angeles Angels. Last year, 73-89 overall, 4th in the division. They lose their best player to an in-state team, which just puts that dagger in just a little bit further. Shohei Ohtani is obviously a Dodger now. They did maintain or retain Mike Trout. They did not let him go. Everyone thought he might be on the market. They said, look, if we lose Ohtani, we're not losing Trout as well. So he's coming back. You look here, Bryson, at this team overall, the Angels, it was kind of a dumpster fire last year. The bullpen was atrocious. The coaching moves were terrible. Do you think that it's going to be as painful of a year this year for Angels fans?
I think it's going to be a bad year for the Angels. I think they're going to have a really rough one. Their pitching staff, I'm not confident in this pitching staff at all. The bullpen, like you mentioned, Riggs, it was really bad last season. I believe they were like bottom of the league in terms of saves and holds. Pitching staff as a whole, their team ERA was down towards the bottom. I don't think they made any major moves to get better in that department. And they, in their credit, the one thing they did really well last season was they hit a lot of home runs. A lot of that was Shohei Ohtani, who's no longer there. So they lose their biggest key in the one thing that team did really well last season. Yeah, they have Mike Trout. He's incredible. He's the best player on this team by a million miles. He's not good enough to carry this Los Angeles Angels team to anything significant. So this is going to be a bad year, I think, for the Angels.
Anthony, got anything to add onto that, man, before we dive deep here into the pitching and hitting staff?
Man, I just want to add, I get that Mike Trout, he's the best player on the planet Earth. But if you guys remember, he got diagnosed with that. Oh, planet Earth. Yes. Over the past 10 years, dude. Don't argue with me over Mike Trout being the best player. Come on, dude. Come on. Give me 5 seconds to talk over here.
Oh,
Jesus.
God. Yeah, go. Please go.
Man, but if you remember, Mike Trout did get diagnosed with a back injury, back prognosis, where basically it's kind of a rare injury. It's one that never recovers. Yes, he can get healthy, but if you look at his long-term health, there's going to be times where he's going to miss extended points of the season because he's going to be protecting that back. If it gets to a point where it gets too bad, there's just no coming back from it. And he's already come out and said that he's going to be very much, considering that when he's playing this season. I hope he stays healthy, but it's kind of tough when you have an aging star who has injury concerns as your best overall player. That's tough. I get they're getting Anthony Rendon back, and I think that he can still be a really good third baseman in this league. But I mean, even some of the comments we've heard him made this offseason doesn't really sound like he wants to be there. Doesn't even really sound like he likes playing baseball, quite honestly. They asked him, where do you rank baseball in your life? And he's like, it's just my day job, That's how he treats it, and I think that's how the Angels overall are going to treat this season. It's going to be really tough sledding. The one little glimmer of hope I have for these guys, they did bring in Ron Washington to be their skipper. Ron Washington is a fantastic manager, fantastic coach in the bigs. He has so much experience under his belt. I think bringing him in could do some good things for a younger team, but overall, it's a bunch of aging stars that didn't materialize, like Miguel Sano coming over, Aaron Hicks coming over. It's a bunch of aging stars that just didn't work out in other places, and they're the one place they can go is the Los Angeles Angels. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's going to be a really, really tough season for these guys.
Bryson, since I'm the hater of the show today, is Mike Trout the best player in baseball? I just got to know. I think
he used to be. I think it's hard to make Mike Trout the best player in baseball today, largely because of the injury that Anthony's mentioned. It's hard for me to call a guy who's maybe at this point lucky to play half a season, maybe at most 100 games. It's hard to call him the best player in baseball. I think at one point, by far, no question, Mike Trout was the best player in baseball. Today, there's just, with players like Ohtani on his team last year, I think there's just so many other players you can put ahead of Mike Trout, largely because of injuries, not because of talent. Mike Trout's still an incredible player.
Okay, maybe I should have clarified the point that it's right now, but you can't come out and say, if I say Mike Trout is the best player over the past 10 years, you cannot deny that fact. I'm sorry, you cannot.
I'll give you over the last 10 years, but today I don't think he's the best player.
I agree with that. I should have clarified right there. And now I know if I don't clarify, Riggs will be right there and make sure I should clarify.
Folks, we'll see you on Tuesday for What's Your Take, because it's going down. I'm not going to comment on the topic. I will go ahead and save that. We'll have some fun on Tuesday. But look, Mike Trout's a dog. Okay, that's all I'll say for now. I'll give you that. Dude's a dog. Got to respect this game. Phenomenal baseball player. One of the best to ever do it. But I will leave it at that for now. Looking at the pitching staff here, man, very worrisome. If you look at their big five here, you got Patrick Sandoval is your ace. Oh my God. I said in my article, say a prayer for the Angels. That's going to be a long year with that guy on top. Canning, Reed Detmers, Tyler Anderson, and Chase Silseth. No guys are projected to even break the under 4.0. Some guys are even getting towards that 5.0 in projection. Anthony, is this the worst pitching staff in this division?
I'll take it a step further. This might be the worst pitching staff in all of baseball. I mean, it was a staff that was already one of the worst last season. They didn't really bring up any prospects. No one from the farm system's making an appearance here. And they also didn't go on free agency. It's like this, complacency with being bad, where you have a bunch of guys who, I hate to say this, but it's a bunch of older guys who looked like they kind of lost their motivation last year. And they're basically saying, yeah, let's ride with those guys. It's very similar. We've heard Jazz Chisholm come out and say similar sentiments about, the Marlins team of a couple of years ago. I have a feeling with what we've heard from some of the older players on this team, there's absolutely no feeling of trying to get better. There's no feeling of trying to promote some of the younger players on this team. This team is bad, and they're okay being bad. And I think that's very much reflective. If you look at some of the names in the rotation, you look at the numbers from last season, they didn't improve on anything. Not a single thing did they improve on from last season to this season. So it's tough for me to go ahead and say that there's going to be a single other staff in baseball that could be worse than them.
Bryson, looking at the batting order, man, I mean, here we go. You might be able to argue that this is one of the worst batting orders in baseball too. It doesn't get any better when you turn to the other side of the baseball. Yeah. You got an injured Luis Rengifo on top there. I always butcher this name. Chenuel, Trout, Rendon, Ward, Drury, Moniak, O'Hope, I don't even know, and Zach Neto. Looking at that batting order, is it bottom five? Genuinely, is it bottom five?
I think so. And that's wild to say when you have Mike Trout in the lineup, but
yeah,
they're really they're praying Anthony Rendon shows some resemblance of what he was before he got there. Unfortunately for them, I don't think it's going to happen. He hasn't hit above 10 home runs in 4 straight seasons. He hasn't played more than 50 games or more than 60 games in 4 straight seasons. Like he can't stay healthy. After Mike Trout, their best hitter, maybe Taylor Ward. Like that's not great. When Taylor Ward's probably maybe Taylor Ward, like that when he's maybe your second best hitter on this lineup, that's not a great thing going into a season. So if you take Mike Trout out of this lineup, by far the worst lineup in baseball. But Mike Trout saves them just enough to make them not the worst.
Well, let's take a look here, guys, at their over-under win total, because in the article, this was my most confident bet of the entire division. I'm interested to hear if you guys are with me on this and we're squad riding, or if someone's going to go the other way. I said under 72.5 has to be the easiest bet in the entire division. Yes, Mike Trout's in there. I think that instantly gives them some credibility. Anthony already mentioned it. Probably the worst pitching staff, bottom 5 hitting staff, bottom 5 bullpen, bottom 5 manager. What the hell are we betting on here? How are these guys going to win 73 baseball games? I don't see it. Anthony, are you with me on the under, or is this a spot that maybe you're getting a bit of a discount here on this team?
First of all, that's not a bottom 5 manager. Not at all. Ron Washington is a saint in this game. He's one of the best. He's going to go to the Hall one day. Like, no doubt will be in the Hall of Fame one day. So that is the one area I'm not going to say the bottom 5 manager like at all.
Okay.
But everywhere else is bottom 5. The product on the field is bottom 5.
Bottom 5 front office.
Oh, yeah. Bottom 5.
I'm sorry. That's more what I meant. That's more what I meant.
I could see this team winning 55 games and being lucky to win those 55. Like I'd see this team being the bottom team in the AL West, and honestly just being kind of a disgrace to Major League Baseball, almost so bad to a point where they might have to step in and say, like, what are you guys doing? You either have to sell the team or you have to be competitive. You can't just sit on an MLB team and do nothing with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
keep it short and sweet. I've got the under here. I think they're lucky to not win or not lose 100 games. I'm with Anthony. They're going to sit somewhere around 55 to 60 loss or 55 to 60 wins this year.
Why the hell is this number at 72.5, guys? Does anybody? I literally looked at it and I was like, am I looking at the wrong?
We keep mentioning
like
them.
66.5 would be like the max number I think you could set that number at. Like, will they win 67? Like, okay. Anyway, folks, there you go. That's the bet of the day. The under 72.5 for the LA Angels to win 73 or more games. But we got one more team to cover here, guys, before we wrap this thing up. You might hear this team and go, oh, that's the worst team in baseball. Hold on. It might just not be. The Oakland Athletics, they are coming in a horrendous 50 and 112 last season. 5th, obviously, in the AL West. Lucky for them, they will be moving to Las Vegas here soon enough. But for right now, they are still burning to the ground there in Oakland, having about 20 fans per game. So that should be fun for them over there. But Anthony, looking at this baseball team, we just threw the LA Angels into the dirt. Is this team going to be even worse than that?
No, they will not be. I'm not going to come out here and say they're going to be playoff contenders. I'm not going to say they're going to be reaching 80 wins, but this will be a team that's better than the Oakland A's and a team that can go out and win baseball games somewhat routinely if you look at the schedule, in my opinion. I think you take a look at their offseason, they actually went out and made some moves. I mean, it's almost hard to believe this is the Athletics, but they go out, they really firm up the top of that rotation. They go out and get Alex Wood and Ross Stripling. They're going to slide in, most likely to be the 1 and 2 starters over there. While these are guys that might not be at the prime of their career, they're still really talented pitchers in this league. And you bring them into any staff, they're going to be really good. Most staffs, they probably wouldn't slide in and be 1 and 2, but still, those are very valued pickups for them. You take a look at their roster, like, yes, there might not be as many stars on this team, but they have a lot of younger players who last year showed a whole lot of talent. So, I mean, looking at their catcher, Shea Langeliers, he was one of these guys that kind of came out of the woodworks last year and proved that he can be a really good defensive catcher, but also he has a little bit of pop and can get on base pretty routinely. The number one guy I'm excited about on this team who had a phenomenal year last year is Seth Brown. I do believe he could make a mark for himself and be one of the better left fielders in the American League. I think he messes around too hard. He has too good of a first half. He might be a trade target come the trade deadline, but there's a lot of younger talent who has been playing well on this team, and the starting pitching staff is not the worst in the division. Overall, I think this A's team, while they might not be phenomenal, I think they could surprise some people this year. I'm going to turn to Bryson here. Do you think this A's team might be able to surprise some people like I'm saying, or do you think they're even worse than the Angels at the bottom of the division right there?
I'm with you, Anthony. I think a lot of it, and you hit on one of the points I wanted to make. I think a lot of what happened to them last year, why they were so bad, and you look at the numbers, they were last in batting average last season as a staff. They were bottom in ERA. They were bottom as a bullpen. A lot of that was age. We've talked about this with a lot of teams. They were really young, like you mentioned, Anthony. You look at the top two guys in this this lineup specifically, Ryan Noda and Zach Geloff, two guys who were rookies last year, and they showed a lot of decent stuff as rookies. They were pretty productive for them. I think they're going to have another step up this year as the top two hitters in that lineup. I like a lot of the guys that are younger in this lineup as well. Like, this is a young team. I think that's part of why they were so bad. And I appreciate the A's kind of leaning into that. A lot of teams, they see these young players and they think, oh, they had good rookie seasons. We got to get some veterans in there to kind of build a team around them. Just let these young guys play. You're not going to be competing. You're not going to be competing with the rest of this division at all. So you might as well just let your young guys develop and play, get some guys in that rotation like Anthony mentioned. I think they're going to be much better than they were last year.
Much better than last year. So you take a look here, man. You guys already kind of talked about the pitching staff, the hitting staff. I don't have too much to say because I do want to get to the futures of this division. So let's jump on in here and look at the over-under for this team. I'm a little bit surprised by the win total here when I looked at it. So they won 50 games last year. We're all talking about they're not going to be as bad. My one fear is that they just don't give a shit. That's my biggest fear with the Oakland A's is like, are they going to be excited about what's coming and they all want to keep their spot so they can go to Vegas and be on the Vegas team? Or are they going to be like, yo, screw Oakland. We don't give a damn. Kind of like the Angels, just not really caring about baseball. I hope it's not that, but over under 57.5. They have to win 8 more games this year. I said in the article, I do believe they break 50. They do play better than last year, but I do not believe that they cross the threshold of getting to 58 total wins. I think they made just enough moves to buy themselves about 5-6 more wins, but 8's a little steep for me. Anthony, are you on the over or under 57.5 here?
I like the over right here. I think they could win 65 games, honestly. Like, there could be that big of a swing for the exact reason that Bryson is saying. This is a team that the one thing you have to give them, I don't think motivation is going to be an issue at all. For the Angels, it very much is, because that's a team of aging stars who are no longer good. This is a team that's young, guys that are hungry, trying to make impressions, even if it's not for the A's, for the rest of the league, saying, hey, come take me at the deadline. I want somewhere to go play. I can be, a value asset for your team as you make that postseason run. Overall, I think these teams, that Angels and the A's, are kind of going to flip-flop. I don't see them winning 70 games, but I do see a very significant uptick in wins right here. Bryson, do you like the over here?
Yeah, I like the over. I'm not going to go quite as far as you said, Anthony, with upwards of 65 wins. I think this team caps at – they're still going to lose 100 games. I'll keep it that way. I think they're going to win somewhere around 59 to 60 games this year. It's a much bigger – It's a huge improvement over last season. I think they should be proud if they win 60 games this year after what they did last year with how much young talent they have coming into this. So they should – if it's still 100 losses, I would be encouraged if I'm an Athletics fan.
Wow. All right. Well, screw me then, huh? Screw the under. Guess we're going with the over, folks. Look, I hear you guys. I'm not going to sit here and argue anything you guys just said. I already said, I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to step up. I have to see so much more before I just hand them 8 free more wins. So I can't do it. So I'm going to stay with the under, but I will say on top of everything else, the whole world is fading the Oakland Athletics. And if you want to be on the right side of the money here, I think these guys are probably on the right side of the money when it comes to going with the bet that most people aren't going to go with. So I'll stick to the under. These guys both on the under. Good luck to everybody there. Let's jump on over, gentlemen, before we get out of here. Got some odds for you guys looking at baseball in total. Well, first of all, I don't think first of all, do either of you guys think that the team that's going to win the World Series is going to come out of this division?
I think there's a decent chance. You just saw the Texas Rangers, the reigning World Series champs. I'm really high on the Houston Astros. I know Anthony isn't. I think there's a chance the Astros can compete. So I don't know if they're going to be my pick, but I think that they're up there for a reason. They're going to be competing for that World Series for sure.
Anthony, how you feeling about that?
This is going to be a tough one. I think it's kind of a 50-50 shot. I think it's going to be a lot harder for a team like the Rangers to make it back to the big series like last year. I just kind of felt like too many things worked out a little too well for them, kind of leading, the postseason push, the way that a couple of those series unfolded. Like, I don't see them just demolishing a team in a Game 7 to get back into a World Series. And as you guys very well know, I'm not super high on the Astros. I think they do make a playoff run, but I don't see them going all the way. I'm actually going to say no. I do not believe the World Series winner or even a team in the World Series is going to be coming out of this division.
What about your little Mariners there at 19-1? I'm surprised you didn't mention those boys coming out of the woodworks, huh?
So I say they're better than one team, and now I have to pick them as World Series.
No,
teams.
I'm just saying they're look, they're the 8th team on the board. Like they're only one spot behind the Rangers. I'm just saying at 19-20-1, do you think there's value on taking that baseball team?
I think if you like the Mariners enough to say that they're going to be World Series champs, you would have a more likely chance to hit it. And maybe getting in. Will the Mariners get into the playoffs? Will the Mariners win the division? So I think those are much more likely if you're that high on the Mariners than a potential World Series. That's just that's too far of a stretch for me to make right now.
Here's one thing I will say that gives me confidence in picking one of those two teams. The only other team outside of Houston and Texas that I think has a chance to make it to the World Series in the AL is the Yankees. And we don't want to throw your Yankees under the bus, Anthony. We know that once postseason comes around, the Yankees kind of fold. So outside of those three teams, there's no one in the AL I'm super confident in going to the World Series. So just that alone, you have a 2/3 of its percentage chance of getting a team there out of this division, in my opinion.
Well, guys, as you can see here, looking at the American League West, the Astros are -110 to win the division. Rangers at +230, Mariners 285, Angels 4,500, and oh my Lord, the Athletics. I'm not even going to say it because if you put your money on them, please just go donate it to like a dog shelter. Don't even waste your time here. But Anthony, Astros at -110. I know you don't like that number. So who are you going to take here? Are you going to go with the Texas Rangers at +230?
Yeah, if this was, who's going to win the division in the first half of the year, I would love the Astros right here. The second half of the season belongs to the Rangers in this division. The Rangers are going to make that run second half of the season. I truly do believe this is the year that they do usurp them for that number one spot, and a +230 there for a team that's coming off of a World Series victory. Yeah, that's not too shabby right there. That's my favorite bet by far. I absolutely love that. I think I might go bet that as soon as we hop off here.
Bryson, I know you and I are both on the Astros here, but value-wise, are you okay laying -110?
I really wish it was plus money because then I would love this bet. I think that they win not the World Series. I think they do win the division. I think that the Rangers are going to fall too far back to start the season, and the Astros are going to take that advantage and build a big enough lead where the Rangers could have a great second half, and it doesn't matter because they can't catch up to the Astros. I just wish it was better odds, but I can't not bet the Astros because I think they're going to win the division.
I'm with you there. Yeah, it's the Astros, but I think the only thing you can do here is if you're with Anthony. If you like the Rangers, you want to take a shot on them, there's value there. I'm not betting -110 and waiting 7 months to get my damn money back. That's not happening. So
I agree.
The only other team I like there is the Mariners. I know I'm the last person who should be saying it. I know, but there's value there, man. I wish it was if it was like +400, I would take a serious look at the Mariners, but I just think the Astros run away with it. But folks, it's been a lot of fun. This has been the AL West. Once again, all of the NL shows are done. We got 2 more AL shows to go, so please stay tuned for that. Baseball season right around the corner. Give these guys a follow. Bryson Owens at Bryson Owens 16, Anthony Hirsch at Anthony Hirsch 23, and myself at Rig Sports Talk. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Sports Forum. We're giving away money. Who don't like money? Take the money, put it on some baseball bets. We'll see you guys next week for some more American League. Peace.